people speak about becoming a vegetarian. Was that something that was practiced in your family, or is that something you kind of got into later on in life?
Okay. Yeah. Well, it's something I got into on my own. I was the only one in the family.
Wow, wow. Okay. Now, how long ago was this, and was it like one thing in particular that just inspired you to take that path, or was it like like a multitude of things where you just were like, man, I'm tired of doing it like this. I'm gonna try that.
Well, if I have to find one thing to put my finger on, I would have to say the revolution. You know, this is this evolution took place in the '60s, being on the college campus out in New York. We're talking 1968. That big year when so much happened. On the home front where I was living in New York after moving from Panama at the age of 17, migrating straight from the bush, from the rainforest in the tropics, right into inner city Bed-Stuy, and and it was a revolution, all going on all over the planet, literally. For me, there was a direct conversion. What do you call it? A conversion, correct, of movements that I was quite sensitive to. Number one being the Black Power movement. After seeing the clenched fists at the Mexican Olympics and all the stuff going on, what's going on around down the street, around the corner, with the Black Power movement, right at my front door, and then being off to college way out in suburban New York, Bayside, New York, going to college there as a fresh kid on the block, coming from a whole nother culture, a whole nother psychology. And then besides, that, then on the campus now you have the hippie movement, back to the land, uh, let's, let's do like the Rastas, stop combing our hair and put on sandals and, get out of the box, And then the next big movement, the Vietnam War movement, the anti-war movement, and the radicals, the white radicals, the Symbionese Liberation Army, kidnapping, folks over there, and yeah, definitely the Black Liberation Army as well, and being absurd with this mix and being exposed to the Nation of Islam, going to Harlem, going to the mosque and picking up the book, How to Eat to Live by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and seeing how, his work was pretty much a continuation of Marcus Garvey's work. And then, yeah, and then in the wider media, the Cuban Revolution, the Algerian Revolution, Black movements all over the world, the Pan-African movement. So being on the front line, pretty much in the belly, that for us in my neighborhood, my posse, it was about, damn, man, you gonna eat that weapon? Don't you see that apple got wax on it? You're gonna eat those canned beans in the cafeteria? Don't you see every time you eat those canned beans and you come sitting at the bidwist table, you farting, nigga, what's going on, man? What are you doing? So, so we got to step up now. It's like, it's a revolution out here. How you going to do that kind of stuff? Folks trying to sit in the president's office, trying to get some respect. And, all of in this little room packed up here and you farting, nigga. Come on, man. You off the team, man. We're going to drop you at the wayside. This is a revolution here, man. You can't be eating that shit. So this is it. This is the setting, coming out of, again, the rainforest in Panama, living up in the bush where I am right now. I'm right here right now. So I've made a 360 degrees in, we're talking 60 years, and I'm back at home in the bush, and doing my thing now with being televised. You know, as Gil Scott Heron was saying about, oh, the revolution would not be televised, but we're televising it right now as we speak. So now, you know, hear us loud and clear. This is a revolution. La luta continua. The struggle continues, just one bite at a time.
Oh yeah, no doubt. You was dropping a lot of information. I'm still trying to process it, but one of the things that stuck out to me, you used the word weapon, and I don't think I ever heard anybody, you know, make it in comparison to the food that we eat and that's destroying us. And I think if a lot of people use that word with the junk food that we putting in our body, man, they would look at things differently. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, there was a book through the grapevine by that title, Food as a Weapon. Sister out of DC, Lena Mobley, little self-printed, you know, little booklet, you know, why is this food that you're eating in the hood is a weapon? And when you go uptown, you see some other kind of food, you know. So yeah, the food is being weaponized ever since, you know, even prior to that revolution, you know, all the revolutions that we've undertaken since the conquest. You know, we can just leave it that way. You know, it's been a conquest, you know, and we've been on a battlefield for hundreds of years now. So now, you know, they're taking it to another level. You know, it was apples and peaches and pears and that kind of stuff then. Now it's nanoparticles, you know, in your food, you know, and then folks out here talking about, you know, what they call now, plant-based. Damn, I ain't no plant-based. If plant is the base, what else they layering on it? You know, nanoparticles, you know. So anyway, I'm up to date. At 77, the revolution is continuing and we keeping it, you know, we're keeping it real, brother. That's it.
Yeah, you definitely are appreciated. That's inspiring. You say 77. Wow. And for you to be, just still sharing knowledge that could help our people, and helping us grow, I really, really appreciate you. Now, I wanted to ask you because you said you came from Panama, and in the 60s, the Black Power movement and I'm Black and I'm Proud was kind of just kicking up for a lot of Black Americans. Was it like that coming from Panama, or were you already kind of aware of your blackness, or were you just as eager as some of the brothers and sisters in New York that was just getting that information for the first time?
Well, I was aware of it at home, hanging out with my father, my grandfather, and they were Garveyites, because Marcus Garvey, he trotted all over Panama. He came to all the plantations, all the banana plantations, especially here, because my ancestry goes back to Jamaica and Barbados. So my grandparents came to Panama during the building of the Panama Canal. So they were known as the diggers. They dug up that canal with picks and shovels. A whole bunch of us got destroyed, in the mines that were planted, to blow the mountain up to create this canal up in the mountain. So, but growing up in a Garvey household with my father and seeing, what was left of the Garvey movement during my time, the bakery, he set up bakeries, he set up newspaper, he came to really let these folks know, my people on your banana plantations, you got to do better. Same like when he came to Harlem and he went to the U.S. and he went down south and met with the Klan and said, no, we stand for the same thing you stand for. We want separation. So let's shake hands and let's separate. You don't have to be carrying on with this other stuff. So yeah, there was that seed had been planted, at home. And so going to New York now, I'm like finally pretty much, got my chance to be on the front line, which is something I experienced pretty much before I left. Something happened in Panama in 1964, January 1964. If you know anything about the history of the Panama Canal, it was pretty much a stolen land. Panama was a part of Colombia, and the U.S. wanted to build the canal. and the Colombian government didn't want to allow them to build it because they wanted control of everything during the building, after the building, and a lease in perpetuity. So the government was standing for that. And so they instigated an uprising against the Colombian government for Panama to get its independence. You know, the big stick guy, Roosevelt, blockaded the sea. The Navy couldn't come in to put it down. And they signed the lease the next day after the independence. So from 1903, the U.S. ran Panama, literally. You know, the stretch of land 50 miles long by 10 miles wide, you know, coast to coast from the Atlantic to the Pacific, to run, you know, all the big value, you know, from coast to coast in the U.S. because there was a frontier back then. You know, you couldn't just get on a car and drive the gold from San Francisco to Wall Street during the gold rush in the 1850s. So they built the Panama Railroad. It's a shortcut. So anyway, then came the canal. My grandparents built that. And we were basically the laborers, you know, the workforce. But during that January of 1964, there was a student uprising in Panama. You know, the university students went to Balboa, the seat of the U.S. government in Panama, just cross the street and you're in the U.S., literally. So we went there and put up the Panamanian flag next to the U.S. flag, you know, because it's like, hey, this is, you know, these folks' territory. They want their territory, and you got your flag up there. So at least let's put my flag up there as well. So the American students took the flag down, ripped it up, burnt it, and that triggered, you know, an uprising, they call it. So we just, from our side of the street to the other side of the street, he was just throwing Molotov cocktail, destroyed the YMCA, destroyed the face of the U.S. And that's what triggered the negotiation for the canal, to return the canal to Panama. So, and my people now, being of, you know, what they call Afro-Antillean descent, English-speaking folks from the Caribbean that came to build the canal as a labor force working with the U.S., they saw the writing on the wall. So in negotiating the canal, you know, their Panamanian government told them, well, you know, you see these niggas y'all brought here, you got to get them out, you know, when you return that canal, because we were the workforce. So anyway, we all got visas to Brooklyn. So that's how I went with that wave. So they got, by convenience, you know, they got us out of here while they negotiated the deal. So at the end of the day, when the canal was returned to Panama in 2000, there was no black folks working on the canal. We were the 100% workers. So we saw it, you know, and just getting that little taste of the revolution and being in New York and seeing it up front with Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, you know, everything on the college campus, you know, H. Rap Brown, Stokely Carmichael, you know, the whole deal. So I was like, yeah, this is my deal now. So it was interesting, you know, and it still is, you know, because again, you know, it continues, but they have taken it to higher levels. You know, you think you woke and you stop eating sugar, then they start serving you agave, you know, and other things, you know. So constantly, you know, you're getting away from yeast, because we know yeast is not good, and we don't want alcohol and all this stuff, because, you know, it produces yeast. But yet, you know, they give us nutritional yeast for the folks who woke. You know, they always find a way to bring you back down into the matrix, and it's still going on today. So now, you know, they've gone to that level, like Terminator seeds wasn't enough. Now they're growing your vaccine in the food. So they're like, okay, after the COVID, we figured it out with that experiment. So y'all ain't gonna get vaccinated. I see. So it's in the food now. Bill Gates buying up all this land all over, agricultural land. So just by eating lettuce, certain lettuce, you're vaccinated. Apples, you're vaccinated. So it's been highly weaponized now. So it's critical. It's important that we mine our plate, you know, mine our plate. And, you know, on that note, I got to give thanks to Michelle Obama for changing the USDA, you know, food and nutrition guideline from the pyramid to my plate. my plate. So, and it's interesting, because this is what I've been teaching ever since 1969, and my company landed in Harlem in 1979, incorporated sun-fired foods. And this is what we're teaching, the sun-fired energy of plant foods, the electromagnetic energy of food, and how to get, your body to live on optimal health. So seeing that, being promoted by the government, by the authorities, as the My Plate concept, where they took away the the whole concept of pushing a whole lot of meat and starch, complex carbohydrate, to make your plate now 50% fruits and vegetables, 50% grains and protein. So they don't even mention starch anymore, thanks to Michelle Obama. It's grains. If you must eat starch, grains are the best shot. And protein, you have an option now. You can be a vegan. You don't have to eat variety of animal proteins to get, your protein needs satisfied. So, sharing this information the way I'm able to share it now with my background as an educator. I have a master's in linguistics, went to Cal State Fullerton, studied with the master of Ebonics, Ernie Smith, sweet Ernie, and we even got to the point where we sued the U.S. the U.S. Education Department and the California Board of Education to get bilingual education for our kids, our youths, going into these public schools and being taught as if they speak standard American English at home. So that's a whole nother conversation. We may have to do a show just on that, Ebonics and the whole thing of speaking our language, African languages, using English words or French words or Portuguese word. And it's a whole nother flavor. It's a whole nother level of communication, going back to the old days when we had to speak in tongues, so they don't understand where we coming from and what our plot is. So happy to be here, happy to be sharing with this generation now, and the lively and, move forward moving generation, that your market is serving. You gotta watch your plate. We got to watch our plate.
Indeed, indeed, man. You dropped so many gems. I gotta speak on Garvey, man. Shout out to Garvey. He's still um inspiring people. Like you say, your parents was Garveyites. The first conversation I ever had about Marcus Garvey was from my grandmother. So, because
Yeah.
her mother and father was in the Garvey movement, she went to some of the parades and events or whatever. So
Mhm.
that had planted a seed in me. So I'm in Ghana now. So you never know how far it's gonna go. So
That's
that's very, very beautiful, and I appreciate you sharing that history about Panama because I didn't know all of that. So I got to go back and do my research on that for sure. That's so dope, man.
Yeah, talking about Ghana,
Mm-hmm.
my first trip to Africa was in 1972. I went there with a dance troupe, African dance troupe, and we went to perform with the dance company of Ghana, of National Dance Company of Ghana, Nigeria, Benin, Togo, and it was very interesting being like in the cafeteria in the Commons that summer and seeing that, here I am, a vegetarian, 3 years vegetarian, and I'm in Africa trying to figure out what I'm going to eat. But being in that Commons, in that cafeteria, they put one little piece of chicken or, meat, whatever it is. They put one little piece of flesh on your plate, and there's no more being served. And everything else was smorgasbord style. The salad, the jollof rice, and the peanut stew, everything. So to see how little meat, even back then, we were still eating at our home base in Africa. And to see how it has been exploded right now, we are like really, really high on the hog now. Still, they come back at you. They come back at you, and us, not being self-reliant, based on our agriculture and all these things. But it was such a powerful move for me going to Africa back then, and also I was able to attend Kwame Nkrumah's funeral. You know, one of my big heroes of the Pan African movement, and to see So anyway, I've made quite a few trips to Africa and Ghana in particular over the years, and looking forward, man, but we're holding down this part of Africa here, Panama. We got to hold this down. We got to keep Harlem down. We can't be giving up these lands that we have toiled for and literally conquered, and so yeah, we got our little slice of Africa here in Panama. I'm in the Portobello World Heritage Park. It's a UN protected area. It's a rainforest that feeds the canal. So this is Maroon Land. This is where our ancestors ran through these parks, 300 years ago, beating the gangster, at their game, staying away from slavery. And so there's a big history that is still unfolding here in Panama. And that's why I chose this part of Panama. I'm actually just 30 minutes from where I was born, But we have a lot going on. I recently connected with the National Business League. It's an organization that was formed by Booker T. Washington, 123 years ago. So that, so these brothers are coming here to Panama now, looking to invest. Like, yo, man, we saw you online and we want to invest in the community. We want to link up with you guys, because y'all got a whole bunch of resources here. So a whole bunch of African-American investors been coming down. And as a matter of fact, Panama is the #1 relocation destination for African-Americans in this world, even more than Ghana. We're right here. We're right next door, and African-Americans are coming in here, and we putting our pocketbook on the table, looking to buy land, looking to get into the production. Just what I've been doing. I've been paving the way here now for a few years, because what I do is a magnet. This food is a magnet, so this is a good place for us to come and invest here and really ship our own damn coconuts to the U.S. Yeah, pick from our own farm. Even possibly ship it on the Black Star Liner one day. It was a big conference here last year. A group of our people came looking to revive the Black Star Liner and had that conference here, that Back to Africa ship that Garvey had us invest in. And, but yeah, we're not missing a beat. Today's generations, we're on it. We're on it. So forget all the down negative things that we may hear in the media or from each other or whatever, wherever it comes from. We're on the move. We're about reclaiming our rightful place in the world, not just here in Panama, in New York, Africa, the whole world. We taught these people what they know today, and it's time for us to, step up and rule again.
Indeed, indeed. Now, I wanted to ask you, Sunfire Foods, do y'all offer like courses or consultations or even tours for the people that, may want to, find out more about what you got going on down there?
Yeah, we offer courses. Sunfired Foods, it's a cuisine. I invented a whole cuisine, a whole world-class cuisine. Sunfired Foods basically is foods that are cooked by the sun. Plant foods. The point of Sunfired Foods is the sun is the chef. The only chef on this planet cooks for us all. The god Ra, R-A, Ra, ancient Kemetic language, the sun god. And you see that sun right now. It's right here in my neighborhood, 12 hours, cooking my mangoes. So I'm enjoying right now this mango juice, fresh mango just off my trees. Fresh mango blended with coconut water and nothing else, straight, direct, from the land. I know where this was grown. I know there's no chemical in it or anything like that. So yeah, it's a big revolution. But being able to do this in this day and time, having food security, You know, we're sitting on a 700-acre farm, a permaculture fruit farm. You know, we have all kinds of stuff going on here. So yeah, we do offer retreats. We offer training programs. We have a lot coming up. You can go to our website, sunfired.com. That's sunfired.com. And you'll see what we have coming up. Huge things coming up. And my book is about to drop. You know, it's coming in the fall, you know, The God of Food. That's the title. Look out for it. So it's a complete plant food cuisine that is not cooked as you know it by stoves, ovens, microwave, strictly cooked by the sun, because our ideal food is actually sunshine. So we want to eat those sun drops, those drops of grapes, those drops of strawberries and cherries. These are sun drops. So we don't cook the life out of the food. We don't cook the sun out of the food. We don't remove the moisture from the food and just discard it, let it go up into the ether. We want to extract that sunshine, you know, with its oxygen and the living water to support our life, you know, and do a direct, efficient transfer of the solar energy from the food to our body. Need I say more? You know what I'm talking about, family. Let's stop chasing down death. You know, there's no way you're going to get life from anything that's dead. And once you cook food, you destroy the entire life in it, and you alter the structure of it that the body doesn't really know what to do with it. Hence, disease. At 77, I'm disease-free, 20/20 vision, climbing coconut trees and everything, and I am not sick. This is the plan. Claim your inheritance. Robust health and being sick is not part of living. So let's come home, come back home to life, and let's enjoy, you know, these foods. So as I always say, you know, I stick it sharp and clear. It's not the food in your life, but the life in your food that nourishes. Please stop trying to get life from death. You know, you want living foods for living people. So here at the center, we can certify you to be a Sunfire chef. We're on a mission to produce 10 million Sunfire chefs for the planet. You know, and we're on target. It's coming. It's coming. I have trained thousands already directly, and these thousands, they're training others. So that scale up factor is on. You know, and we've had quite a few solid people that have come from your way, from the Hollywood side of town. You know, it's my girl Tiffany Haddish, you know, Ferg, yes, ASAP Ferg. We got a long list, so we're not going to really try to go through the list there. But come on home, family. It's about your life. You know, let's get a life. You know, we were born to live this life on this level where we are never going to be worried about being sick anymore.
Okay. Well, we almost 30 minutes in. I wanted to ask you, if it's okay, I wanted to ask you one more question, if you have time.
Yes, for sure, I do.
Oh, okay. Now I was checking out some of your videos online, and I think you were saying something along the lines that you don't drink water anymore, but you actually get it from, or you actually hydrate your body from fruits and vegetables. Is it a certain amount that you have to have, or is it specifically certain fruits and vegetables that you have to have?
Well, right now I am on a 77-day fast. You know, right now. You know, so we're talking. I'm about like around day 47 now. So I got 30 more days to go. I do a gallon a day. You know, this is a 16-ounce glass. I do 12 of these a day. So half of my intake is coconut water. I do drink water. My water is coconut water. Coconut water is 100% water. It is structured. It has been filtered by the plants. So all the water that I've been drinking now in the past 45 years have come through a plant source. When I'm drinking orange juice, I'm actually drinking orange flavored water. So sometimes, we drop it like, oh, the man don't drink water, to get your attention. But I do drink water, but not the water that you know. Okay. I'm sure you've heard about watermelon, melon flavored water. And they dropping it just the way it is in English, watermelon. This is water, but it's flavored, melon flavored. The watermelon is 99% water. The watermelon vine is a water hose that connects to an underground spring, plugs in and pumps that water. It pumps. The sun is the pump. Pump that water from that underground spring and bottle it in these things that we call a watermelon. Those are bottled water. Yeah, that 30-pound watermelon is a bottle of water packaged to perfection, hermetically sealed, packaged at the source. And if you don't drink it within a few hours after opening it up, it's going to spoil. My water should spoil. So if I'm opening up a bottled water, spring water, purified water, ionized water, alkaline water that was processed by a machine, not by a plant, that water does not spoil. Come on now. Come on, Stagnant water, still water spoils within really hours. At about 50 degrees, it starts to grow, or it starts to grow more moss, or it starts to become stink by the next day. Why your bottled water is not growing moss? Why it's not stink? But anyway, that's a whole nother program. That's a whole program right there. But I do drink mango water. I do drink lettuce water. So maybe we should stop calling this juice and just call the damn thing water as it is. We get too sophisticated with these languages. As a linguist, I don't want to get you lost anymore. Let's stop drinking orange juice, and please, let's drink orange water, just the way it was designed by life, by the sun, for us. Water that is structured, water that's got nutrients, it's got enough sugar, it's got all that we need. It just doesn't stop at only hydrating you. That's what plain water does. It only hydrates you. It is blank, it is empty, and also we got to let it out the bag. If you didn't know that water, the same way it dilutes everything it comes in contact with, it dilutes your life as well. So when they tell you drink 8 glasses of water a day, empty, blank, nothing, you're being diluted. So let's keep our 100% full potency, and let's get water that's compatible with our nature. Structured water with minerals, vitamins in an organic form. That spring water you get from the greatest French spring system is inorganic. Your body cannot do anything with inorganic water. I could see if you just want to maybe harvest the snow or harvest rainwater in a clean area and drink that. But the minute that water hits the earth, it's picking up impurities, and you're going to put it into your body and you're going to be impure. Something as simple as water can intoxicate you. Imagine all the other foods that's now on your plate that's driving you crazy. Literally, you're losing your mind every time you eat that food. Come on back home. You need to come back home to self, okay? You've been astray too long. And this is the time. We're on the move. We're on the dawning of a new civilization, and we can't take this old stuff with us into the future. Your future, this new civilization, has to be built on a foundation of health. We are sick and tired of all this mess, especially getting sick. You can control that. No one put that bite in your mouth. You did it yourself. Take a hold of your life. Put that animal you live in on the manners, and make sure that you, as a higher spirit, you're not promoting self-destruction anymore. On with life.
Wow, wow. Thank you, King. Thank you so much. It's been a phenomenal episode. I want to thank the viewers for tuning in. Until next time, family. Taye speaks. Peace.
Peace, peace.